Hello, folks. Welcome back to the CrimsonCast watch party. We're here. We got a few minutes before we get started in today's second round matchup in the women's basketball tournament as your fourth seeded Indiana Hoosiers take on the Oklahoma Sooners. It's the battle of the uniforms that look very much alike, which is an old Adidas joke for those of you who remember when Oklahoma and Indiana launched football uniforms that look suspiciously similar to one another about 20 years ago. Excited to be here. If you've never done one of these watch parties before, it's pretty simple. You're going to watch the game at home. I'm going to watch the game at home. I'm not going to have it on the screen. You're going to have me on your computer screen or your phone or whatever, and you're going to be watching the game, and we're just going to talk. You can leave comments if you're on YouTube or on X or on Twitch. We actually have a Twitch option as well. You can get on there. You can leave comments. I see the comments, and I can pop them in, and we can talk about things. Quang saying, "Ha, go Hoosiers." I 100% agree, Quang. Thank you for being here. And for those of you who have not commented yet, by all means, go ahead and chime in, as we'll be jumping in and talking about the game as soon as it gets started. Before we get to that, just a quick reminder, folks, that we're part of the Back Home Network here at CrimsonCast, and the Back Home Network is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, your place to go for the finest in college fashions. And that includes IU women's basketball fashions, as they have dropped a ton of IU women's basketball apparel over the course of time. It's all outstanding. So go check it out, homefieldapparel.com. Be sure to subscribe to them on social media. Use the code HOME23 and get 15% off your first order if you haven't ordered from there before. Again, that's homefieldapparel.com. Still TBD as far as whether anybody's joining us today. Most of the people who would be joining us are at the game or preparing for podcasts after the game. So it might just be me, but I will do my best to keep it entertaining over the course of the full time period. Let's start off, I guess, maybe by just talking through a little bit about what to expect in this game and where these teams are at. These teams had relatively similar seasons. I guess you could say both teams had a pretty good record overall in conference. Neither of them was, I think the best team in their conference per se. And what you had from Indiana, obviously, was a season where they had a bunch of highs, but they, outside of the win at home against Iowa, they didn't win a lot of their ranked games in conference. They lost the game at Iowa. They lost the game at Ohio State, but they had some good wins earlier in the season. They beat Tennessee in a neutral site game right around Thanksgiving. Oklahoma, similar kind of story, a few more wins against ranked opponents. They won at Ole Miss, who was ranked 12th at the time. They did lose to that Tennessee team right around the time that Indiana beat them. They lost to North Carolina, who was ranked at the time, and they split the series versus Kansas State. But they had some other good wins. So this is a dangerous Oklahoma Sooners team. They had a tough game in that first game, and it was interesting because Florida Gulf Coast really looked like the superior team for large portions of that contest, and then Oklahoma made a big comeback, some pretty questionable calls at the end of that game, and Oklahoma ends up coming away with the victory. They were the better team, I think, but still, you hate to see things end up that way. For this Oklahoma team, if you haven't been following them, you want to keep your eye on Skylar Vann, who averages 15 points, 7 rebounds a game, and is a really, really tough player. Certainly going to be a player that can give Indiana some problems. A couple other names to note: Peyton Verhulst, sorry, that's a tough one to pronounce. Averaging about 13 points and 6 rebounds a game, and Sahara Williams averaging about 10.3 points per game. Some decent three-point shooters. Nobody that's like knockdown, drag out, amazing. Lexi Keys shoots 40% for Oklahoma, but on the flip side, only averages about 8.5 points a game. So not a volume shooter from three necessarily. For Indiana, obviously, the game that they played on Saturday was an all-timer in terms of just dominating an opponent in the tournament. Tough first half for that IU team as they struggled a bit with just kind of keeping things under control with Fairfield. But then in the second half, really just blew the doors off the joint right at the beginning of the second half, went off on a huge run and really never got reeled back in by Fairfield. So tonight's game going to be, I think, a different animal for IU. Ultimately, for IU, it's a very simple thing. On offense, they've got to get their shooters going, and they've got to get Mackenzie Holmes in a position where she's either taking advantage of post position, or if she's not, then she's able to kick it out to open shooters. And I think Indiana's got to really be careful, as they've had to be all season, with this whole idea of dribble penetration and trying to move the defense both with dribbling as well as with passing. When they've had the most success this season, I think they're able to do that. But they've had to combine it with playing good on the defensive end. And that's the one thing that I'm curious about with this team. They've played good defense when they've been really focused on it throughout the course of the season. And I'm hoping that that's what we'll see here. I think that we will see that. This is the last game that Mackenzie Holmes is going to play in Assembly Hall, regardless of what happens tonight. And so you'd hope that as we watch this team kind of, put it together out there, they're going to be able to bring the kind of intensity that's going to create issues for Oklahoma. They're just getting things cranked up right now on TV, and looks like we're pretty close to tip-off, but not quite there. I'll give you some scores and so forth from earlier on today around women's college basketball, as there have been a couple of other tournament games that have gone on so far. Right now, UConn taking on Syracuse. UConn already up by 10. That one's probably over already, I'm guessing. Earlier on today, Notre Dame, 2 seed in the Albany 1 regional. Don't get me started on the women's basketball regional naming conventions right now. But they beat Ole Miss 71-56 today. And then NC State just ended Tennessee's season as they knock off the Volunteers by the score of 79-72. So we're looking right now for the stats to pop up. I haven't seen that pop up yet from the NCAA site, but hopefully we'll see that coming up here soon, as we'll just do our best to keep you informed about things as they go along here. For Indiana, if you go back and look at that game that they played against Fairfield, Sarah Scalia with a huge game, 27 points in that one. Sydney Parrish with 7 assists, and Parrish had 7 rebounds. Chloe Moore McNeil had 7 assists, or 6 assists. So this Indiana team, statistically speaking, just to kind of reset where they're at right now, they have, over the course of the last several games, I think, found sometimes a groove and sometimes not a groove. Obviously, they had a nice stretch there where they won 6 games out of 7, which was kind of wrapped around that difficult loss that they had at Illinois. And then they had that kind of inexplicable loss to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. A lot of that, if you're going to try to explicate it, came down to injuries. And if you listen to Terry Morin, it sounds like the team's a lot healthier. They've gotten a chance to kind of rest up a little bit. They desperately needed that. And so we'll see how they come out in this game. Just a reminder, folks, a couple other things later on this week on the network as we get ready for the next phase of things with IU. If they win this game, they would be playing in Albany, and they'd be playing against South Carolina. South Carolina with a dominant win yesterday as they took out North Carolina. Not a surprise by any means, but still a very dominant win for them in that contest. And then Indiana would be playing, I'm assuming, Friday evening in that contest. And, certainly a difficult matchup. But, hey, Iowa beat South Carolina in the tournament last year. Certainly once you get to the Sweet 16, anything is possible. Indiana trying to get past this round, which they were not able to do last time around, which was certainly disappointing given how good the season was last year. Later on this week, we will have Assembly Call Radio coming up. Be sure to head over to Assembly Call, check out what I'm not even sure who is doing the show this week. I'm assuming it'll be probably some combination of Jared, Coach Tonsoni, and a couple of other folks. So we'll see what goes on with all of that. Ari Schifron, who's on site, says times in Albany would be 2:30 p.m. or 5 p.m. So that's good to know. We're getting ready for tip. A couple of last-second comments here. Oklahoma worries me. Hope we don't have a bad shooting night. That's certainly a concern. But we also hear from the arena, Mac looked good jumping to stop a ball from hitting announcers or running off the court after warm-ups. So we'll see what happens as we get ready to go here These two teams set to jump, and we are officially underway, at least according to my television. And again, I'm not going to do complete play-by-play. We're just going to watch through, kind of leave some comments as we go along here and see how things go. Indiana trying to run, looks like a little three-man or three-woman action. They've now isolated Holmes, and nice job. Couldn't get the layup to drop, but that's a pretty decent shot attempt to get things started for IU. Oklahoma going with the no names on the backs of jerseys approach here, which always a favorite of those of us doing these live watch parties. Always really easy to spot who's out there. First shot up and good by Oklahoma, and pretty wide open and alone down there. That was Skylar Vann, who we talked about in the pre-game commentary. Indiana getting off to a good start is important. 3 rattles out there from Scalia. And another shot down low, up and good by Oklahoma. So obviously not what Indiana was hoping for in terms of a beginning here. That last shot looked like up and good by Sahara Williams. So a couple of easy early opportunities in the post. Nice post move by Mackenzie Holmes, and Indiana's on the board. 8:30 left here in this first quarter of play. There's Sahara Williams again on a long 2. That's not a very efficient shot in the women's game, same as the men's game. We've complained about those long 2s all the time. They're not great shots. Don't take them. Chloe misses a 3. I get the feeling they're going to probably leave her alone on some of those. It's always interesting with Indiana trying to get into these games, like, at what point and what ends up being the dynamite that kind of breaks the dam for them from outside, as Oklahoma misses a 3 of their own. A lot of ISO attempts here by Holmes, but they knock it out to Parrish. She hits a 3, and Indiana leads. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That was a nice little inside out where, Holmes could have tried to force that in. Looks like a foul down low. And sure enough, Sydney Parrish picks up a foul, just kind of a needless shove down there by Sahara Williams. And looks like she's going to go ahead and sit down altogether. A nice pass out to Parrish, who was ready to shoot that the moment she got it. This broadcast unofficially brought to you by Passion Fruit LaCroix. ESPN showing a nice graphic. 4 IU players at 39% or better from 3, which you like to see, obviously. Another nice post move by Holmes, but looked like she might have gotten fouled there by Beatrice Culleton, but no. And now a quick entry and another shot by Skylar Vann. So both teams kind of getting what they want so far in terms of their offensive play. Ball knocked out of bounds there. IU, one of the big challenges in these sorts of contests is just kind of getting into an early flow and rhythm. And a lot of that really just comes down to feeling comfortable hitting shots. You have to imagine the crowd's pretty awesome down there right now. It's fuller certainly than it was in the first and second games of the regional or the sub-regional. Garzone getting an open shot. Can't get that one to fall, but a nice job by Holmes and puts that one up. Josh noting that we're allowing 2 easy shots in the paint. Yeah, this is one of the things with IU. It's they are a pretty perimeter-oriented team defensively. Nice block by Mack, but right back into the arms of the Oklahoma player. And then that 3 no good, but a rebound up and good by Skylar Vann. So this is going to be a theme, it looks like already. I mean, Indiana just going to have to rebound and box out better and play some tighter interior defense. Again, folks, if you're watching along, you can reply on X, or you can leave comments on YouTube, as Chloe Moore McNeil can't get the shot to fall, but gets her own rebound and got fouled by, looks like Peyton Verhulst. I'm going to have trouble with that name all night, I can tell. Oklahoma was not particularly happy with that call, but that's going to send Chloe Moore McNeil to the free throw line. Oklahoma on the season with 253 made three-pointers on 798 attempts. I mentioned that because I think it's always good to kind of contrast what you've gotten out of Indiana. Indiana only has taken 602 attempts, but has made 242 of them. So kind of an interesting contrast. I mean, Indiana's been a little more judicious and certainly has made a higher percentage than what we've seen Oklahoma make over the course of the season. Sydney Parrish steals there, kind of an errant dribble by the ball handler there, Lexi Keys. And Chloe Moore McNeil finally gets a layup to drop, so back to a 10-8 lead here for Indiana. I'm not sure, throw a little bit of sound on in the background here. Jump ball. Nice job there by Sydney Parrish. Just a reminder, folks, immediately after the game, you're going to leave this watch party and you're going to go to the Doing the Work podcast as they do their live post-game podcast. They'll have, I think, Andy Bottoms joining them tonight on that, which is awesome. So be sure to check them out. That jump ball was controlled, or that gave possession back to Oklahoma. And an easy layup there is Skylar Vann, already with 8 of the 10 points so far for Oklahoma in this contest. So again, the defense needing to get a little bit more stringent against her. Yeah, Parrish couldn't grab that rebound. And once again, a drive in, block out of bounds. And that, it looks like, I think, is going to take us to a timeout as we're at the under 5, so to speak. So not a bad beginning for Indiana. I mean, the big thing, I think, in these tournament games, just in general, is you don't want to put yourself in a position where you fall behind early and you're having to fight, up against a deficit. We got a note here from Quang that looks like Mackenzie Holmes is now out of the game. Obviously, still nursing an issue with that leg. So hopefully she's able to play more consistently as the game goes along. But Indiana's going to have to make some alterations, I would say, to what they're doing and how they're approaching it, knowing that they're going to need a lot of defensive presence in the post. So that last block coming from Lily Meister, and I think ultimately she's going to have a big game. The problem, to some degree, is just Indiana, while they're relatively tall, you've got so many guards and players listed as guards on this team. Their defense works better more as a perimeter-oriented item. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it, overall from a rest perspective, because as Oklahoma does appear to be kind of focusing most of their attention on the interior. So we'll see how they're able to meter out minutes to keep everybody fresh as this goes along. Because I get a distinct impression you're going to have a situation where you're going to need a lot of consistent minutes from down low, and you're going to have to be careful from a foul perspective throughout. Kathy joining us here. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. So we're at the under 5, and thanks to everybody for joining us so far on the show. If you'd like to join in with a comment or whatnot, go ahead and jump in. We've got about 500 people in the space right now, which is awesome. And looking forward to hopefully having more of you join. If you got any comments or questions or anything along those lines, go ahead and send them our direction. And we've got some good commentary coming in across the Twitter sphere, as well as folks kind of chiming in and talking through things. So far on the game, Oklahoma shooting 5 for 11. They're 0 for 2 from 3. 4 offensive rebounds for Oklahoma so far, 10 total rebounds. Indiana only with 4 total rebounds, 2 offensive. Indiana only 4 for 11 from the field. They have hit a 3. So Indiana needing to pick up a little bit more in terms of their overall production offensively. We had a question from Josh: is Vann OU's best player? I think the answer to that is yes. As I mentioned at the top of the show, although you might have missed it, 15-point per game average, about 7 rebounds a game, about 2.5 assists a game. So she's been pretty consistent throughout the course of the season, has played all 32 games, and averages about 27 minutes a game. Team's coming back out onto the floor. Kathy noting that, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have Doing the Work podcast right after the game, as Andy Bottoms will be joining. We've had some mixed luck with these watch parties. Nice steal attempt by Sydney Parrish, but that one's picked back up again by Oklahoma. That'll dribble under the basket, and a nice shot off glass there. That was, I've scrambled to look up the numbers. That was Aubrey Jones, senior for Oklahoma. Cut attempt there, and that was knocked away as Bargesser was cutting to the basket, but a nice job of reacting there by Oklahoma. Oklahoma's got their mascot, as it were, under the basket. It's funny, like the mascot, I think, is a horse. I've never actually totally been sure. I'm assuming that the Oklahoma mascot is a horse. But everybody knows them for the schooner, the covered wagon that they bring out at the football games. Obviously, that would be hard to do at a basketball game. But it's almost like you can have too many mascots or too many things that represent your university. It's not just one or another thing. Substitution set coming in here for Oklahoma. Indiana able to trigger that in. Garzone, a little bit of a quiet beginning to things, had that knocked away. Nice sequence of passes there for Oklahoma. That's going to lead to another basket. That one made by Kirsten Johnson, I believe. Parrish knocked down on that layup attempt. So Indiana down 4 here early. I mean, still obviously no need to panic or anything along those lines, but one of those situations where you want to see Indiana pick up the pace a little bit here shooting wise. They've been almost a little tentative. I mean, Oklahoma's doing a good job of kind of drawing the ball into the post as opposed to just letting Indiana set up on the perimeter. That was one of the big problems Fairfield had in the second half of that game, where they almost couldn't get Indiana to go where they wanted them to go, and it allowed Indiana to get some excellent spacing as Sydney knocks down both of those free throws. Little drive, and the bench wanted a travel there, but they don't get one. Raina Scott able to lay that one in. So still a 4-point margin here for Oklahoma. Holmes, nice job on that layup. Yeah, so far in the contest, this box score is not updating very quickly. Nice job by Indiana to pick up that turnover. Ball swatted out of bounds there. Mackenzie Holmes with 6 points, Sydney Parrish with 5, and Chloe Moore McNeil with 3. Quang asks, what is it that you're drinking? This is a passion fruit LaCroix. If you want to get that's probably my favorite flavor. It's that or the limoncello flavored LaCroix. I have not put the Hoosiers Connect vodka in it yet, and I'm not planning to. Nice 3 dropped in there by Sydney Parrish. She's got 8. Indiana back up on top here. That's more like it. This was a game that the odds makers thought was going to be high scoring. 3 knocked in on the other side, as that was Aubrey Jones that knocks that one in. So Oklahoma back into a 2-point lead overall. The over-under on this game was, I think, like 156.5. which is an insane amount of points. But the analysis, as Holmes knocks down a layup, the analysis was basically like these teams were going to put a lot of points up on the board, and it wouldn't be a surprise if both teams were in the 80s. Skylar Vann misses the three, but offensive rebound again for Oklahoma. That's their fifth. And now a 3-second call going to be whistled. So that is fortunate for IU, as there was a wide open three attempt coming there. I don't think Oklahoma's coach was very happy about that. Indiana came into this game as an 8.5-point favorite, which seemed a bit much, but that was what ESPN's BPI had basically rated them as that high of a favorite. The numbers really like what Indiana's done so far this season, certainly more than what than we would see. Sorry, got a little distracted there. Here's Chloe Moore McNeil now. And an offensive foul going to be called on Mackenzie Holmes. A little illegal screen out there. Missed shot there by Vann. Not a great fan of those flat-footed elbow jumpers, but not going to complain. Garzone, that three's off the mark. Nice job by Holmes to fight for that rebound, but they're going to say she loses it out of bounds, despite, for all the world, looking like people in red knocked it out of her hand. I'm always fascinated by those calls. It's like, how do you say for sure? I don't know. That I guess there were some maybe some questions there that couldn't be completely answered by the officials, so they went with, oh yeah, surely she knocked the ball out of bounds on her own. About a minute left. Nice job there. That was a good job by Indiana to generate a turnover. That was Lamondola. Now Lamondola gets tripped. Oklahoma seemed to think she fell over her own feet. That seems unlikely. So that's the second on Kirsten Johnson. That's big. That's a pretty important one. Now Lamondola, nice job getting position. Just can't get that shot to fall. That's disappointing. So about a 6-second differential, at least on my clock here, between the shot and the game clock. So Oklahoma's going to probably hold this for the last shot. 19-19 is about where I think I expected it to be. I'd like Indiana to have a little bit of a lead, but the offensive production has just not been there for them so far. Now Vann with an 18-footer. I mean, let her please take that as often as you want, Skylar. That's not a great shot by her by any means. Looks like they're bringing Meister off and Lamondola. So 7.5 seconds left. We'll see what Indiana can do here as Chloe Moore McNeil going to bring it in. Clock hopper a little slow starting that thing. Here's Garzone. That was really disappointing, actually. This Garzone did not seem conscious of what was going on in terms of the clock. Looked like she was going to try to dribble and pull up and take the shot herself, then passed it off to Holmes. Not entirely her fault. She only got the ball with about 3.5 seconds left, but still got to be a little more on top of things in terms of where and what is going on overall. So anyway, no one seemed to be aware of the time, as Brian noted. So we'll do a stats reset in a second. We did have a question. Carbonite asked, is it just me or has Garzone not been shooting great the last couple of months? I mean, it's been hit or miss. There's been a couple of games where she's been on. There's been periods of games where she's been on, but there's been also a lot of moments where she hasn't been on. And Carbon, I noticed she seems to clutch up late in the game. I don't know. Sometimes she does very well. The consistency is sometimes not been there, but I think you could say that about a lot of IU's players down the stretch. The nice thing is that you've had players have bad games and other players have stepped up to take their place. And I think that's why this team has been as good as they've been down the stretch overall. Let's talk overall statistics for Oklahoma first. They finished that quarter 9 for 19 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. So shooting 47% thereabouts. 14 rebounds overall, 5 offensive rebounds, 7 assists on 9 made baskets. I'm sure they'll be happy about that. 4 blocks, but also 4 turnovers and 4 fouls overall. They had Kirsten Johnson with 2 fouls. That's kind of the big news as far as they're concerned. For Indiana, only 3 players scored. Sydney Parrish has 8, Mackenzie Holmes has 8, and Chloe Moore McNeil has 3. IU only 7 for 20 from the field and 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. So if you take the 3-pointers out, they're only 5 for 15. That's not going to get the job done. Indiana is 3 for 4 from the free throw line, 5 offensive rebounds, 10 total, 4 assists, and that's really about it. I mean, Indiana has not turned the ball over, which has been nice. They've had 1 turnover total, but they've not really been able to convert that into anything noteworthy in terms of a lead. Carbonite asks, I'm not able to watch the game. Why hasn't Scalia shot much? Good defense on her. It's partially that, but it's also, I mean, Indiana is following through with this idea they're going to get the ball in the paint. And the kickouts have generally gone to Sydney Parrish. So some of it is the way that the defense has set up. But a lot of it has been, I mean, Indiana's really kind of focused on getting more interior shots in this game, and they've largely been open. Indiana just hasn't hit them. Mackenzie Holmes 4 for 7 so far in the paint. Chloe Moore McNeil only 1 for 4. And then Garzone's 0 for 3. Scalia's 0 for 2. And then Bargesser and LaMendola both 0 for 1. Kathy noting she wants to see Scalia driving more. But as was also mentioned, Indiana's clearly kind of looking inside for everything. And we'll see how long they continue to do that. Nice of ESPN putting up an average attendance list and noting that Indiana's average attendance when Morin got here was about 2,600. I question whether it was actually even that. But average attendance this year over 10,000 for the first time in program history. Oklahoma on their first possession of this quarter, and they got a 3 to fall. So that's the first, pardon me, that's the second 3 of the game, but back out to a 3-point lead for Oklahoma. A little drop pass to Sydney Parrish. Another missed shot inside, but she's able to knock that down and then falls down herself as she's backing up after the shot. But nice job sticking with it. Sydney Parrish has 10 points so far in this contest. Now it's interesting because Oklahoma kind of switched their offense up. They're running a lot more of a perimeter set. They end up not getting an offensive rebound, at least to some degree as a result of that. And a whistle and a foul looks like called on Oklahoma. Looks like Mackenzie Holmes drawing that one. So fouls being whistled down low. That is the 5th foul overall on Oklahoma. Indiana's only been whistled for 1 so far in this game. So baseline out of bounds. Nice full looking crowd there, I got to say. They just had a nice shot of the crowd on ESPN. And not a great pass by Mack. Fortunately, Garzone able to pick it up, and she's going to reset it out to Chloe Chloe just going to pop a three as the shot clock was winding down. That one bounces off. Nice slip there. Blocked by Parrish. Another block. And then Chloe Moore McNeil able to come out of there. Indiana kind of playing dangerously in terms of some of the shots they're allowing, but it didn't really hurt them on that trip. Indiana's offense just got to get going. I mean, they've got watching what Scalia's doing. She's just getting shadowed all over the court. They're not switching on her. And they finally got her to pop free there off of a screen. Now she'll drop back behind Mackenzie Holmes' screen, but can't get that shot to fall. She's getting tailed all over the floor right now by, looks like Nevaeh Tot. Missed shot by Oklahoma. Both teams having some trouble dropping the ball in the bucket at this point. Now Sydney Parrish can't get that three to fall. Lids on both baskets. Not the most compelling watching, but interesting. As here's Skylar Vann for three. That's way off the mark. I don't like how either of these teams is playing right now. Mackenzie Holmes had that blocked and gets dispossessed, and now Oklahoma comes the other way. Yeah. Now Vann gets a shot up. No. Offensive rebound, though, up and good, as that one was pulled in by Beatrice Culleton. Indiana having a hard time keeping track of what Oklahoma's doing at various times on the floor. And offensively, it is clear Oklahoma has just decided, well, we're gonna handcuff somebody to Sarah Scalia at all times and just not let her get free. And there's Mackenzie Holmes fouled as she puts a shot up. It doesn't go, but she'll go to the free throw line. So like on that last possession, it was Nevaeh Tot that was following Scalia around. This possession, it looks like it's number 15, who's not on the roster. So, sorry, there she is, Lexi Keys. So Lexi Keys was following her around on that last possession. And Mackenzie Holmes misses that free throw. So this is, one of those, it's not a box and one, but there's clearly like pressure denial defense specifically on Sarah Scalia. And this is where Sydney Parrish and Chloe Moore McNeil and Yarden Garzone are going to have to hit shots, because you can get away with doing that if you're not facing a lot of scoring elsewhere if you're Oklahoma. But if IU starts hitting shots with other people elsewhere on the floor, that's a problem that they're going to have to overcome. There's an easy pass and layup by Oklahoma as Aubrey Jones got free on the baseline. Largest lead of the game here for Oklahoma with 4. And Scalia's out of the game altogether at this point. Meister gets blocked. Oklahoma really creating some problems. Kathy noting that was too easy for Oklahoma. A lot of backdoor cuts being allowed. And to some degree, I mean, offensively, Indiana is making it easier on Oklahoma than they should, as they're taking the post opportunities and they're just kind of letting Oklahoma bait them into bad positions. We saw that with the block that we just saw there. We saw it on a couple of the other blocks. Indiana a little bit flat-footed on both ends of the floor at this point. 3 from Oklahoma, no. And honestly, what's saving Indiana right now is that Oklahoma's missing a ton of open shots. Chloe Moore McNeil dribbling this back out again. Oklahoma is also holding a bunch, and that's the 3rd foul on Oklahoma. Just got whistled there, as looks like that one's going to be called on Peyton Verhulst. Someday I'll get that name right. So Indiana not in the bonus quite yet. Obviously getting to the free throw line, something that Indiana would like to do. They have a big advantage there. Indiana being a little bit smarter on this possession, it looks like. No Holmes out there and no Scalia. It's a little double move at the top of the key. And now Chloe Moore McNeil, 3 seconds on the shot clock. Meister got that off, but it was a bad shot because it was so late in the shot clock and it's missed. Another 3 by Oklahoma, another one that's missed. Stephen noting Chloe has to take that inside and hope for a foul. She's been hesitant too many times. So here's the thing. The problem is Indiana's gotten blocked now, I think 6 times so far in this game. So I don't think you can just go in and hope for the best. And Sydney Parrish doing a nice job there. That shot fake under the basket before she lays it in kind of cleared out the option of the block. A foul going to be called on Moore McNeil, and that's going to take us to a timeout. So the pace of this from an offensive perspective has slowed down considerably from what we saw in that first quarter. I mean, it was 19-19 heading into things, and now it's 26-24 with about 4 minutes left in this first half. Let's check out the statistical update here and see if there's anything that we can glean. So Indiana's gotten, again, only 3 players on the score sheet. Sydney Parrish has 12. Mackenzie Holmes has 9. And Chloe Moore McNeil has 3, albeit on 1 for 5 shooting. Indiana only shooting 31% so far in this game. 9 for 29. They're 2 for 8 from 3. 18 rebounds overall for Indiana, 7 offensive rebounds. So they have done a bit better in that category, 5 blocks. Oklahoma, I said Indiana had 18 rebounds. Oklahoma's got 22 rebounds, 8 offensive, and 6 blocks on the game. But Oklahoma not shooting a whole lot better than Indiana. 12 for 31 on the game, 38% so far, 2 for 8 from 3. And as Kathy noted here in the beginning of the second quarter, Oklahoma won that opening segment 7-5. Need to start hitting shots and stop the backdoor from Oklahoma. And yes, it was 31%. Shelley noting this is not the same Oklahoma team that we watched on Saturday. Indiana's doing some things right, and certainly defensively, I think they've gotten better. I think as far as the rebounding is concerned here in the second quarter, Indiana's offense just isn't clicking, and a lot of that's because Oklahoma's defense is very good right now. So this is one of those where one of these teams is going to figure out how to get things rolling, and that could really spell trouble for the other team if they don't also get it rolling at the same period of time. Let's take a look and see if there's anything else noteworthy here. Statistically speaking, not a lot. I mean, Oklahoma's gone to their bench quite a bit. They've actually played 12 players so far in this game. Indiana with only 9 that have made an appearance. But saying Henna Sandvik was in, I don't think that's actually accurate. But Lamandola 0 for 1, Bargesser 0 for 1 from the field, Lily Meister 0 for 2, Garzone 0 for 3, Scalia 0 for 3. So that group of players has got to start producing a bit more. I don't think that this can just be the Mac and Sydney show if Indiana is going to stand a chance at winning. But to me, like, the defensive focus and intensity have just got to get better for IU as we watch this next couple of minutes go off the clock. I don't think Indiana wants to go into this halftime trailing. You haven't played great through the first 15 minutes, but now's the time to put yourself in a position where you're at a level that is going to be a little daunting for Oklahoma, because I think Oklahoma's got to look at this right now and say, well, we've played pretty well. We've managed to, get a lead here in this first half. We're dominating on the boards, things like that. And that really kind of feeds into what Kathy was saying, was that Indiana's got to be more active on the defensive boards in general. little bit inbounds play. It was a nice play that was run, but Oklahoma misses that shot. So Mackenzie Holmes back in the game. So is Scalia, still getting shadowed and just kind of standing in the corner. And kind of a bad pass there, easily telegraphed. And Oklahoma all the way in for the layup, as that one was courtesy of Raina Scott. Indiana just not with the punch that I was expecting to see. And another difficult pass that Holmes couldn't gather in. So a little bit of danger here for Indiana. Long rebound. A point where if you're Indiana with Skylar Vann out of the game, you've got an opportunity to make some moves offensively. Lay up a little too hard. Indiana almost looks just a bit skittish. Their shots are going up too fast, and they're off pace. And for it, really, I mean, honestly, what's keeping Indiana in the game right now is just Oklahoma's missing shots that I would expect them to make. Crowd really trying to get into it here. This is some good defense by Indiana. I mean, they've really shoved Oklahoma out. Bad shot, way off the mark. Now this is the kind of break that Indiana can take advantage of. Here's Scalia. See, I wish she'd pressed that. I know why she didn't, and part of that was just a spacing thing, as Mackenzie Holmes needed to kind of pull out a little ways and give Scalia a lane to the basket. Getting her or getting Moore McNeil a little bit looser in terms of what they're doing offensively is going to be a key. Little double action. There's Scalia getting wide open, and she knocks it down. There you go. Well, that's a big sequence. That is a huge sequence. That shot made, great defensive possession, and then getting Scalia unearthed, and now an offensive foul. Sydney Parrish got clocked. Jeez. None the worse for wear. But another foul going to be called on Oklahoma. That's their fourth. Yeah, you can see. If you're watching, you saw that there was a nice little double curl move, which they tried to run a couple of times. Oklahoma's done a good job of keeping themselves in front of it, and they're just kind of a discard by the Oklahoma player that knocks Parrish down. Nice move by Mack. Can't get the layup to go, though. This is the kind of game where those are just, you're not going to be able to miss many more of those, as Oklahoma's going to knock theirs down on the other end. So Indiana is essentially going to hold for the last shot of the half here. We'll see what Indiana does. They've got kind of a box set going. Now they're going to run a screen off for Scalia. She didn't really have a sliver of time there. 3 seconds left. And now Holmes has to launch one. That was well defended by Oklahoma and a bad idea by Indiana. And they'll put a 3 up. And fortunately, that misses. So Indiana, fortunate, I would say, to only be down 1, 30-29. And just kind of a microcosm of the problems Indiana's had in the game on that last possession, where they're just not able to string multiple possessions together successfully. Oklahoma's doing a really good job disrupting. I guess what concerns me is, I mean, yes, as noted, Kathy noted here that the Indiana won that segment 5-4. I guess what I'd be concerned about for Indiana's sake is that Skylar Vann was on the bench for Oklahoma that whole time. But on the flip side, they have managed to lock Vann down, relatively speaking. Let's go ahead and give you some statistical updates as we wrap up that first half of play. So we'll start with Oklahoma. Oklahoma shot 36.8% in that first half, 14 for 38. They were only 2 for 11 from three, 25 rebounds, 8 of those offensive, 6 blocks, 5 turnovers for Oklahoma. And then for Indiana, again, I mean, they have 4 players score. They finally got Sarah Scalia a shot that went in. 12 points for Sydney Parrish, 9 points for Mackenzie Holmes, 5 for Chloe Moore McNeil, 3 for Sarah Scalia. Indiana only shooting 11 for 34 from the field and 3 for 9 from 3. They're 4 for 6 from the free throw line. But that's just not going to get the job done. They're not going to be able to shoot 32.5% and come away with a victory. A lot of it, look, again, it's an aggressive style of defense by Oklahoma. They have the athletes to be able to go out and defend, on the perimeter, and they've been able to leave their post players alone, or they've been able to drop a double down on Mackenzie Holmes, and they've been able to disrupt shots. Holmes on the game, 4 for 11 from the field. Sydney Parrish is 4 for 6. Chloe Moore McNeil's 2 for 6. And Sarah Scalia is 1 for 4. And then Garzone and Meister are a combined 0 for 5. So also, as pointed out by Kathy, 15-0 in bench points for Oklahoma so far in this contest. So part of it, I think, ultimately, was a question here from Shelley. Don't they need to go quicker? Seems like they're going too deep into the shot clock. So I think they'd probably like to go quicker, but I think you got to give Oklahoma a ton of credit, as their defense has really made it difficult for Indiana. Indiana's had a couple of plays where things have revealed themselves the way that you would want them to in terms of how the plays are supposed to be drawn up. That was where the Scalia 3 came from. But this is a really good defensive team and a really good defensive performance by Oklahoma, and they have really bottled up Indiana. I think ultimately Indiana's got to stop missing shots down low. I mean, if Indiana, if you get 4 of the missed layups that Indiana's had, and you're talking about a 7-point lead at this point in the first half. So Indiana, to some degree, they've gotten what should work for them. They've just missed so many shots. So I don't even think it's a matter of Indiana being conservative. It's a matter of Indiana just not finishing off what they've been able to get for themselves. And Oklahoma has been a big part of that. They've really played very, very aggressively down low, and that creates a real problem because Indiana, I mean, they're used to that kind of defense. Maybe they're just tight mentally in this game. It's hard to say, but it's created some problems, obviously, that Indiana has struggled to deal with. Anyway, we're going to take just a couple-minute break. I'll put a screen up, and stick with us, as we will be back with more right after this. Just a quick break to kind of refresh here. We'll be back with the second half of the CrimsonCast Watch Party here just shortly. We're having some trouble here. Hold on a second. Well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to put a screen up, but a quick timeout on this end. I'll be right back. Hey, we're back. We got some other comments coming in here. Is there a box score? Let me just show you what I've got, because let me tell you folks something. When the NCAAs happen, the wonderful score tracker that we normally use, which you've probably seen if you've been to the IU athletics website, that has like really detailed stats and really tells you things that you need to know, that goes away when the NCAA is involved. What do they give us instead? They give us this monstrosity, which I'm gonna pop up on screen for you to see. Here we go. I mean, could we get more basic than this? We don't even have numbers. I mean, I mean, I obviously know the numbers for the IU players, but I have to go and look at the roster for almost everything that I need to know from an Oklahoma perspective. Also, I want to note, thank you to Ari for having the watch party screen up on his computer. Like 3 people have texted me who are sitting at Assembly Hall because they're watching me doing this show. And they're seeing it on the laptop, which I think is tremendous. Anyway, thank you, Ari, for having that in. Anyway, this is the box for Indiana. You can see what I've been telling you about. This is the player box. Obviously, I don't even think I have a full box. I'm gonna try to get it off of ESPN. And then there's the stuff that they've been doing on the Oklahoma side. Let me see if I can call up the actual box score from ESPN. There we go. So let me change the screen share here. There we go. So here's what we got out of ESPN's box. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so you can see a little bit easier. So here's what Oklahoma's done so far in the game. Big number for me is obviously the total rebounding numbers. You've also got the 6 blocks. 2 of those coming from Culleton, and then they kind of spread it around otherwise, which is kind of proving my point. There's a lot of good things that Oklahoma is doing that are creating problems for Indiana defensively, because when they're able to defend the post alone, it gives them a lot more coverage on the perimeter, which makes it harder to pass out. And really, outside of that early kick out that Holmes had to Parrish for a 3, Indiana really hasn't done a lot of that, and it's largely been because I think Oklahoma's done a good job of defending. You scroll down to Indiana, I mean, obviously what's kind of keeping Indiana in the game, Oklahoma has made 14 shots, Indiana's made 11, but Indiana's made 4 free throws, and they've made 1 more three-pointer. That's essentially why it's only a 1-point deficit. Again, Indiana's had to kind of do things on their own to some degree, from an offensive perspective. And Sidney Parrish has been the recipient of some good passes, but that's about it. And the rest of the team has kind of been relying on her to get things going. I think you got to get something out of Yarden Garzone. She's the only starter that hasn't scored so far in this one. And if this is the group that Indiana's going to roll with off the bench, you just got to get some more production, especially with rebounding. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But that's a look at your box score. Just a couple of other reminders, folks, while we get ready to get this second half started. If Indiana wins this game, they'll be playing on Friday. They'll be in the Albany Regional. Let me show you what the bracket looks like. Why not? We'll just use ESPN's for this too. How about that? So you can see here's where Indiana's going. Regional 1 is what Indiana would be in. So South Carolina's already in. If Indiana wins this game, hopefully they will, they'll be right here. And then they'll be taking on, if they win that game, it'd be the winner of Oregon State and Notre Dame heading on to the Elite 8 there. If you look down, seeing what else is going on, it's been a pretty chalky women's tournament, which it generally is. So you got Texas already in the Sweet 16, and then it'll be Utah Gonzaga playing tonight to see who advances, and then Stanford and NC State are already through. We did one of the Portland. This is the weird thing. Like, you've got 2 regionals, but they're both in Albany, and you've got 2 more regionals, and they're both in Portland. So Iowa, West Virginia, that game going to be starting in about 30 minutes. Iowa, clearly favored to win. Colorado with a mild upset on Kansas State earlier, so they're already in the Sweet 16, and they'll place the winner of that game. LSU knocking off Middle Tennessee State. That was a weird game yesterday, but LSU coming away with the victory there. And then Creighton and UCLA, that game coming up tonight. And then USC, Kansas, that should be USC winning that one. Although Kansas, that was a pretty impressive win for them against that Michigan team that most people know. And then Baylor already advancing. That was a wild game there. Syracuse keeping it closer against UConn than I thought they would. And then, of course, the big upset, the one big upset so far, Duke knocked off Ohio State. And now Duke will be in the Sweet 16, where they might be facing off against UConn. We'll have to see how it goes. Thanks to you all for joining us here on this. We're looking forward to the second half of play, which should be getting started here momentarily. Later on this week, as I mentioned, we're going to have a Assembly Call radio a show on Thursday. We'll have an additional Crimson Cast. If you missed my Crimson Cast from earlier today, be sure to check that out. Go to the Substack, crimsoncast.substack.com, and we'd love to have you as a part of that community. That's free, but we also include a variety of stuff that is available to you, in terms of videos and so on and so forth. That's extra there's a paid subscriber option there. So $5 a month, $50 a year. You don't have to do that. If you just want to get the podcast emailed right to your inbox, you can just roll with that. But if you want to subscribe, we do about twice a week have some extra stuff, and there's additional occasional goodies that fall into that as well. Ari noting that I told everyone I was close enough to have a basketball come towards me. Fortunately, caught it off the bounce over the table and threw it back. Good for you. That's great, Ari. My first time ever as a media member, my dog is upset about something. I don't know what. My first time ever as a media member in Assembly Hall. This would have been like early November or late October of 1997. So it's been a while. I was doing radio for WIUS, which this was before it became WIUX, student radio station. So I'm doing radio, and midway through the first half, the ball bounces down to the end of the scores table, which is where student radio used to be. And I catch the ball, and the cameras ended up training on me because nobody would take the ball from me. The officials wouldn't look at me. None of the players would look at me. So I'm just like standing there like a goofball holding a basketball, while wearing like a shirt and tie. I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? So that's, nothing quite like the tradition of catching and throwing back basketballs along press row when you're there right up against the court. Looks like we're getting ready to come back. We've got some broadcaster talk as they're trying to lead everybody back in from halftime. We talked about Skylar Vann at the beginning of the game, and she was certainly a bit of a force there for a while, but the flip side has been she kind of became less important as that first half went along, and Oklahoma's bench really stepped in. So Skylar Vann does have 10 points, but having a similar problem to Mackenzie Holmes in that she's only 5 for 12 from the field. She's taken 3 3-pointers and missed all of them, and surprisingly only has 1 rebound, and it was an offensive rebound. So she is normally a lot more active on the glass, and we'll see what happens with her. Oklahoma getting 7 points out of Aubrey Jones. I would like to note that despite this being Indiana's arena and there being tons of Indiana players or fans in the arena, for whatever reason, ESPN has continually just showed Oklahoma fans when they've done crowd reaction shots. I'm not shocked, I guess, but it's a strange editorial decision from the producer. Mackenzie Holmes, little pull up from the elbow, misses. You just get the sense that Mackenzie Holmes is having one of those games where she's just not on offensively, which unfortunately for Indiana, she is their most reliable option in a game like this. Yeah, she dribbles right into a double team. Oh, now that's what Mackenzie Holmes does for you, though. Gets that one to fall and gets the contact. And ESPN with some rare IU fan reaction shots. That's great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is really nicely done. I mean, that could have gone very badly as Mackenzie Holmes ended up spinning right into a double team. She ends up knocking that free throw down. So that's a really nice trip for Indiana as they score the first 3 points of the half and are suddenly up by 2. Looks like a foul got called. I don't know against whom, but a foul got called. No indication there as far as who the foul was on, so I'm sure we'll figure it out as we go. Nice inbounds play there, but the shot was missed by Oklahoma. So Indiana with a chance. I mean, I don't think Indiana's led by more than 2. Now Yarden misses the layup, misses another layup, and then gets stripped because she's surrounded by 4 players. That's not going to get it done. There's a kick out, that 3 off, and a fortunate bounce on that rebound, and Scalia able to pull it off. Okay, Kathy thinks that foul was on Sid. So we'll go with that unless we learn something different. Just not seeing a lot of movement out of Indiana that's resulting in good positioning. Like Sydney Parrish just kind of got stranded there because Garzone did not cut the way she wanted her to. And again, a lot of this is Oklahoma. They are really, really blowing up all of Indiana's offensive movement off the ball. Oh, Chloe Moore McNeil, just everything but the finish there. That ball just would not go in. Dale Ficklin asking, what's with all the missed layups? And honestly, I think it's a combination of things. Offensive foul going to be called as Sydney Parrish got discarded there. It's a combination of nervousness and good defense that's causing a lot of rushed shots from Indiana. I mean, they're very strong around the bucket, and they're too strong with what they're doing shooting wise, and that is leading to a lot of the problems that they're having. Good cut there by Scalia on that curl at the top of the key. Just couldn't get the shot to fall. A foul going to be called. Looked like on Scalia, or maybe that was on Holmes, as they were trying to impede Skylar Van from getting into position under the basket, it looked like. I think they're going to call that on Holmes. Yeah. Holmes kind of stuck her arm in her. A bad inbounds pass there. So Van picks up her first basket in a while. 12 points from her, back to a tie game. Yeah, Holmes again. If you'll notice, most of these misses have been hard off the back of wherever Indiana's shooting from. So, we saw that with several of these shots down low. We've seen Indiana overshoot and hit the back of the iron and have it bounce out again. That's the 3rd foul on Mackenzie Holmes, and she looks frustrated. I mean, she looked really frustrated sitting down on the bench. But you also saw like Chloe Moore McNeil, like was on one side of the bucket and it bounces off the backside of the bucket. Offensive rebound there, and Parrish picks up a foul. 4 fouls here real quickly on Indiana after not a lot in the foul category in that first half. I mean, they're nowhere close to foul trouble, although obviously Mackenzie Holmes with 3 fouls is not ideal. But they've picked a bunch up here early on, and they're still not hitting their shots particularly well as that one rattles in. Indiana's shooting has dropped to 29.3%, which is not ideal, certainly. Should have been a foul, but no call there. I'm always mystified as to what a foul is and what is not in women's basketball. Garzone can't get that to drop, but that's called a foul. Sure. So she'll go to the free throw line, and a chance for Yarden Garzone to get off the schneid here as she's 0 for 5 from the field, has not attempted a free throw. That was clearly a foul. Yeah, that's not sure what the protestations were on that one. I mean, the game's been called pretty evenly. And Garzone misses hard off the back iron. I don't know. This team just looks tight. They've looked tight the whole game. There was that one spurt in the second quarter where it looked like they might be gaining a little bit of control, and then it went away again. She hits that second one, so only a 1 point margin right now in favor of Oklahoma. Yeah, this is the concern that we talked about in the end of the first half. Skylar Vann back in, and she can score in bunches. And Indiana just isn't showing a consistency. Garzone manufacturing a foul call there. But again, it almost feels like Indiana's trying to get the contact first as opposed to trying to get the shot to go. And, maybe they're just in full grind mode at this point, feeling like the ball's not going in. But, man, if that's the case, I mean, there's the 6.5 minutes or 6 minutes, 13 seconds left in this half. That's not a good mentality to be in if you're already thinking that the ball's just not going to go in. Garzone knocks that one in. So Garzone has gone from no points to 3 points on 2 consecutive possessions thanks to the free throws. And Indiana, fortunate that they've been to the free throw line and that they're shooting essentially about 80%. Foul going to get called by Meister there. She didn't agree with that. That's going to be bonus for Oklahoma now. So already in the bonus are the Sooners. On the season, how have they done? Let's find out. It's a pretty good free throw shooting team. Well, actually, it's about 70% free throw shooting team. 345 out of 490 so far on the season. So about average, about what you would expect. Yeah, Kathy noting that the Oklahoma's being a much more physical team. That's true. Indiana's trying, but most of their physicality is coming on the offensive end at this point as opposed to the defensive end. And the defensive end is where it's needed. Mackenzie Holmes back in the game. No real time to rest. Runs into a brick wall, and another foul going to be called. Indiana is definitely in full on. We're just going to have to try to manufacture points at the line until we figure things out. But I'm not a big fan of what Indiana's been doing offensively, just in terms of their overall approach here. It's been dictated by Oklahoma's defense, but Shelley noting game being called differently this half. I both agree and disagree. I think it's being called similar. I think that both teams have just decided that they're going to try to pound the ball into the paint, and they're leaning into the contact as opposed to the contact coming to them, which is why you're getting a lot of these ugly shots, but you're also getting a lot of foul free throw attempts and trips to the line. Holmes only hits 1 of 2. And now Oklahoma really pushing the pace, and they're able to take advantage of 3, and that, I believe, is Oklahoma's largest lead of the game. They're up by 5 now. Or did they call that a 2? If they called that a 2, that's great, but that for all the world looked like a 3. Nice pass by Garzone there to Holmes. Another 3. Now Indiana's just getting beaten down the floor in transition. And this is a real problem Indiana's going to have to figure out. They are not spotting shooters. And Oklahoma's, this is what I thought. And the score bug is wrong. It's actually 44-38. For whatever reason, it's 43-38 in the TV production. Garzone, again, trying to draw something that she wasn't going to get. Here's another missed shooter. Fortunately, had her foot on the line. Timeout going to be called. Well, all right, some confusion as far as what the actual score is. ESPN.com's got it. Okay, there it is. I believe it's actually 46-38. So this is absolute danger time for Indiana as they are down by 8 with 4:28 left in the third. And they've been outscored 16-9 in this quarter. It's just not adding up particularly well. Tyler's saying we seem a little tired. Guess that happens with no bench or very little bench. I don't know if that's it. I mean, Tyler, they do, to me, they look less tired and more, they look kind of thrown off by the aggressiveness of Oklahoma's defense and the fact that the most of that aggressiveness is cutting off their outside shooting supply. I mean, this is a team that, we saw the graphic at the beginning. I mean, everybody that's followed this team knows this. When they're able to set up and shoot from outside, they are very, very hard to play against. And so, I think what's going on right now, it feels like Indiana is a little unmoored in terms of their offense, and it's feeding into the rest of the game. They're really struggling with it. So far, Oklahoma's had they've really improved their shooting numbers. They're up to 40% shooting so far, 19 of 48, and they're hitting what free throws they've got. They've hit 4 for 4 so far. Van has 16 points. Jones has 10, including 2 3-pointers. And the rebounding has continued to trend in Oklahoma's direction. They're up to 33 rebounds on the game. Indiana with only 26. And as Kathy notes, we've only made 3 threes. And again, I think you got to give Oklahoma a lot of credit, as they have really kind of baited Indiana into taking interior shots, and yet they're playing really good defense on the interior. It's not like they're just giving Indiana wide open looks. They're making Indiana go 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, and Indiana has not done a good job of dealing with that. Yarden forcing up bad shots. But here's the part of the problem, I think, is, Yarden's getting the ball close, and there's not a reliable way for her to get the ball back out once it's down there, because if you're watching what Oklahoma's doing off the ball, Indiana's not doing a good job of moving. And so as a result, what's ending up happening is that Indiana gets stuck down there. And I mean, they're that way with Mackenzie Holmes as well. We haven't really heard a lot from Sydney Parrish so far in this half. She's been real quiet. She started with 12. She still got 12. Indiana got Mackenzie Holmes some points, but they're just not getting the same level of production. And at this point, Indiana's just got to get themselves connected from outside. They've got to get a couple outside shots to fall. I was hoping that 3 that went in from Scalia was going to be what got her uncorked, but it just hasn't happened so far. So, the fact that Oklahoma's leaking out and really moving, pushing the tempo and putting themselves in a position where they can score consistently on the break is to some degree is why they've got this lead now of 7 points. So Indiana's essentially, I think, got to get their own pace up a little bit, because they've got to do something different against this Oklahoma defense. So watch what Oklahoma's doing. They're so extended out on the perimeter, and now Indiana's decided to join them out there. So this is clearly a bit of a change. But see, now Parrish drives in. She's going to draw the foul there. But you saw kind of the problems with what Indiana has been dealing with this Oklahoma team. They are very much saying, we are not going to let you beat us on the perimeter. We're going to make you go inside, and we like our size against yours. And unfortunately, Indiana, I mean, we just saw the beginnings of perhaps a change in what they're doing, but they haven't done enough of that. So Kathy's noting they need to settle down and play our game, quit letting Oklahoma dictate what's going on. I think the problem is I don't think Indiana's got a good answer for this. And the thing is Indiana does not play a lot of teams that have this physicality and this athleticism that Oklahoma's got. And, the idea that you could effectively defend Mackenzie Holmes in the post, with one player. I mean, how many teams in the Big Ten showed they could do that? Not very many. And the fact that they've been able to be fast enough in their perimeter defense that they're cutting off a lot of those feeds out of the post is creating a lot of issues for Indiana, because once they get the ball in, it's kind of stuck there. And as we saw with like that play when Garzone got quadruple teamed and lost the ball, after a while, if you suck all of those defenders down and have them surround the player that's got the ball, I mean, there's not much you can do about that. So I'm with you. Like, it'd be nice to see Indiana dictating the tempo, but I think what we're going to have to see is Indiana, the process by which they dictate that tempo is got to be pace. They've got to get the ball out. They've got to get it running. They've got to get shooters open in transition, and they got to hit those shots. So unless Terry Morin can get the team like fired up and spread them out a little bit, I don't think Indiana is going to be able to win this game in terms of the half court offense at this point. They've got to try to get out into transition, and I mean, I'll give Oklahoma credit. They seem to recognize that, and they got out in transition, and they kind of unclogged their offense a little bit with those shots. And there's no reason why Indiana can't do the same. I mean, between Scalia and Parrish and Moore McNeil, they absolutely have the horses that they can run down the sides. They can get positioned in the corner or on the wings. But you've got to get the ball down the floor faster. You've got to not let Oklahoma set up their defense, because Oklahoma is athletic enough that they're able to jump out on those players as necessary. Indiana shooting 30% overall from the field right now, and Oklahoma shooting 40%. And that's basically the difference at this point. You're watching the CrimsonCast Watch Party. Galen Clavia, nice to be joining you folks tonight. Indiana women's basketball trying to get back to the Sweet 16 for the first time in 2 years, and trying to avoid the fate that befell them last year when they lost on their home floor in the second round to the Miami Hurricanes. This is a little more highly regarded team than Miami was last year. But we'll see what happens in this next 14 minutes as Indiana's season in some peril. Sidney Parrish unable to get that free throw to fall. And this is where you just worry about the mental spiral that happens in games like this when stuff's just not dropping. And I mean, even though Parrish makes that second free throw, you figure, Garzone's missed a free throw. Holmes missed a free throw. I mean, right there, you're talking about the difference between a 6-point game and a 4-point game, and nothing else is really altered. That's a fortuitous steal there by Chloe Moore McNeil. But again, Indiana not fast enough down the floor, and they let Oklahoma set up in their defense. Nice shot by Chloe Moore McNeil. That's what Indiana's got to get. I mean, they got a flash for an open shot. They hit it, and they got right back down the floor defensively. So, little mini 3-0 run, and they can get a defensive stop, which they do. But again, a good job by Oklahoma. There were no shooters positioned, so they could just kind of defend internally with impunity. And then Mackenzie Holmes short arms that one. And then that leads to a breakout three. Fortunately missed. Woo, okay. All right, again, though, Indiana, their first option, it seems like, is to slow down their offensive possessions. And I think they got to do the opposite if they're going to win this game at this point. Moore McNeil misses. Yeah. That was more of a hopeful shot than one that came out of any sort of offensive set. I mean, Indiana just looks really uncertain on offense right now. Fortunately, and this happened in the second quarter as well, Oklahoma's shot selection when Skylar Vann is not in the game is pretty stinky. It's a pretty bad set of offensive shot selections. They've put a lot of shots up that they just shouldn't. Nice job by Holmes. Good positioning there. Well, there you go. So 5-0 run. Get another stop here, and suddenly you're cooking again. That was a nice individual effort there by Oklahoma. Nice job there by Chloe Moore McNeil. Not a great position on that shot. My disdain for long twos, but if they go in, hey, great, whatever. Nice block by Holmes there. Offensive foul. That was clear. Clear as day, moving screen. Well, this has been a nice response for Indiana. And Mackenzie Holmes back on the bench now. Trying to steal a little bit of time here at the end of the quarter. But, Indiana needs to go 2 for 1. They need to score on at least one of these two possessions that they get. Indiana doing all kinds of wild action to try to dislodge Oklahoma's defenders. And Oklahoma they are just sticking with whoever's got the ball. Scalia just getting blanketed, but that's a nice pass out and just off. Garzone misses that layup. Oh, nice job by Meister. And now Scalia open. Man, just unlucky all the way around. Everybody's short-arming things. You can't miss that putback if you're Garzone. And if you're Scalia, I mean, I don't know why she shot that so quickly. She had time to take a dribble in. So Indiana was at 33% shooting. They missed 3 shots in a row. So they're down to 31.4% shooting on the day, and they're down to 10 of 15 from the free throw line. Is there a reason that there are conferences? Oh, I guess they're trying to figure out who got fouled. I guess they called Garzone on a hold there on that free throw or on that rebound attempt. So that's going to send. I think that is. I've lost track of these. That's Kennedy Tucker, the 5'10" senior out of Little Rock, Arkansas, going to the free throw line. I don't believe she has shot that many free throws this year. Yeah, Kennedy Tucker has played a lot of minutes, has not shot much of anything. She's 11 for 17 from the free throw line on the season. So not an oft-used player, at least in terms of statistics. Yeah, gets that to go. Kind of like the kid at the end of the Houston Texas A&M game last night who had to be pressed into service because everybody had fouled out and hit one of the free throws, and that was all that was needed. Well, she misses that second one, and then Indiana gets out hustled for the rebound. Goodness gracious. Well, those are the kinds of plays that you go back and think about. And you can't track down a long rebound that goes to the side on a free throw. Oh, Indiana picks up the steal. And they hurry. You got a 5-on-4. I don't understand the lack of urgency there from Indiana. They really just look like they're in slow motion. And now Garzone, and now a foul going to be called. I think that's going to send Meister to the free throw line. So Indiana back to the free throw line. They're 10 of 15. And Meister has a chance to knock down her first point of the night if she can knock this first one home. Every part of the rim, but it went in. All right. Misses that one. And that three at the end bounces off. Well, all of that, and it ended up only being -1 in that third quarter. Indiana with a nice comeback after being on the ropes a bit, down 7. They were at one point it was 46-39, and Indiana closes and gets it to 48-46, and really probably should have converted on at least a couple of the plays that they didn't convert on. But a little statistical reset for you as we head into the fourth quarter. So Indiana shooting 16 of 51. They're 3 for 13 from 3. Incredibly uncharacteristic. And again, credit to Oklahoma as they've just bottled up Indiana shooters. Indiana 11 of 17 from the free throw line, which is 64.7%, which if you're going to have a game where you're off shooting from 3, you can't be that bad from the free throw line. Indiana 31 rebounds, 10 assists on 16 made baskets, 7 blocks, and 4 turnovers. The turnover numbers are nice. That's kind of keeping Indiana in the game. Oklahoma shooting 20 of 54 from the field, 3 for 19 from 3. 5 for 6 from the free throw line, 38 rebounds in this game, including 12 offensive boards, 13 assists on 20 made shots, 9 turnovers for Oklahoma. They've had 7 blocks so far in the game. So individual scorers, Van is leading Oklahoma with 16 and Jones has 10. The next highest scorer is Williams with 6. For Indiana, Mackenzie Holmes with 17, Sydney Parrish with 13, but only had 1 point in that third quarter. Chloe Moore McNeil picked it up a bit there towards the end. She has 9. Yarden Garzone with 3, Sarah Scalia with 3, and she's 1 for 6 from the field so far. And then Lily Meister with 1 point. The big story so far, Mackenzie Holmes 7 for 17 from the field, which is not great, but it's better than the 1 for 6 that Sarah Scalia has thrown up, and it's better than the 0 for 7 that Yarden Garzone has thrown up so far in this game. So, look, at this point, can you pull yourself out of a shooting tailspin like this if you're Indiana? Maybe. It's a real question mark at this point, in as much as you get to this stage of things, and I think you start to actively question whether or not you're, is it my day? Is it not my day? Are we going to continually have this issue where the ball's just not going in the bucket? And that's the concern, is has Indiana psyched themselves out to a point where they're going to be harmed just in terms of thinking that they're going to be able to have the shots go in? I'd love to say, I'm looking at Twitter right now, and a lot of people are like, I feel like a big fourth quarter coming in from Scalia or Garzone. I'm just not seeing the confidence in either of them right now, and a lot of it has to do with the way that Oklahoma is defending the perimeter. So, Indiana started doing a couple of different things there towards the end. I think they need to push that pace a bit more because their regular offense is not setting them up for success. So, what can they do as we head into this fourth quarter? Can they do anything different, or is it just going to be a matter of putting themselves in a position where they hit a shot or two that they haven't hit up to this point, and that gets things rolling? All right, so first defensive possession, a big one, huge bench scoring as they've mentioned on the TV quite a bit, and Jones run off the 3-point line by Garzone, and nice job by Mackenzie Holmes to grab that rebound. That was a good defensive possession by Indiana. And good position by Holmes. That's really nice. That was nicely done. And it looked like one of the Oklahoma players may have gotten popped in the nose on the rebound. She looks upset and injured. So I'm assuming they're going to look at this on the monitor. As Holmes had, as part of her shooting motion, it certainly looked like kind of, going around and hit. Let's see, which player is that? That's Skylar Van right in the nose. So they're going to review it. To me, there's nothing to review here. This is just it's a basketball play. So they're going to go to an ad, of course. So I don't see what the justification would be there for calling a flagrant one, as that looked like just a normal play. Looks like elsewhere, UConn only up 3 on Syracuse. So we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs here, waiting. Good to see you all. This is going to be our last watch party for a while, unless the ladies move on. We might be able to do one on Friday, depending on what time the game is. But we'll see what happens with that. We will, this upcoming month, obviously continue to have coverage of a variety of different things with IU. We'll be talking about transfer portal news from both men's and women's basketball as they come along. Certainly everybody keeping an eye on what's going on with the men's transfer portal, and a lot of names floating around, a lot of potential contacts, but nothing official in terms of what's going on there. So we'll see what happens with that. I assume some stuff will start cooking for IU in the transfer portal. They're still reviewing this play. Ari noting that the IU bench was not mad after the referee came over, so a guess that no flagrant is called. So we'll see. I'm not singing. I'm not singing songs live, Kathy. We go to recording for that. We don't do that live. Maybe some other time. Let's see. Still waiting for some kind of an official word. We're on a Keytruda ad here because, of course, we are. Longtime Bloomington sports voice Jeremy Price complaining bitterly and rightfully so on Twitter about the fact that we're reviewing this. As he notes, not everything needs a review. So this is interesting. Zion Brown noting that this turned into a media timeout. What was originally a review turned into a media timeout. And he notes not necessarily sure if we're now going to get the under 5 media timeout. His comment was, expect a lot of worn down players down the stretch. This has been a very, very physical game. I would hope that they're going to give the regular break at the under 5. Well, now we're going to see another version of this. I don't know. The whole idea that would even be a flagrant, like if Mackenzie Holmes had really, or any player had really intended to go up, try to put a layup in, and then simultaneously like directly aim her elbow at the nose of a player that she wasn't looking at. We probably should give her an extra point if she really was able to pull that off, as opposed to looking at it as a flagrant foul. But anyway. So tied up here. This is big for Indiana. Can they string another defensive possession together? Parrish gambled on the steal and couldn't get it. I don't mind that gamble by Parrish. I like the aggressiveness, but it did leave the backside open there for the drive and the layup. And we'll see what Indiana does. They're not really running players off screens out. They just did it with Scalia, but again, she was covered pretty nicely. And Parrish, I think that pass was going to Chloe Moore McNeil, but she kind of gobbled it up. But Sydney Parrish does a nice job. Soft touch. Sydney Parrish has really been the only player so far in this game for Indiana that's had her shot under control. Everybody else has been hard off the back of the rim. That was a really nice play by Oklahoma and a really terrible shot. That was a nice little the little ball screen action there and an air ball right out of bounds by Oklahoma. We'll take it. So tied up at 50. And a nice play by Sydney Parrish, but can't get the layup to go. That's too bad. I like the idea. Just, and here I praised her the softness of her shot, and that one was clearly a little too hard. That looked like that should have been perhaps a foul on Oklahoma, but they're going to get Sydney Parrish for that instead. So nervy times here at Assembly Hall. A quick release. That was really well done. That was Jones again. See, that's the kind of thing Indiana's been missing. They've been collapsing on the post as opposed to really defending the perimeter hard. And you end up with that kind of a situation where Jones 3 for 3 tonight from 3. And then a foul going to be called. That's going to be on Van. Yeah. See, Sydney Parrish got caught going under that screen. I just can't do that against that particular player. Nice job by Mackenzie Holmes there. I always get a little nervous when Mackenzie Holmes is going up against 2 players and just throwing it high off the backboard, but she knows how to do it really well. Indiana's got to string some stops together here. There you go. Nice rebound by Chloe Moore McNeil. Chloe Moore McNeil has just not had it going offensively from distance tonight. Oh, nice block by Garzone. Now here we go. A little 3-on-2. And Scalia, there you go. That's see. And again, you get the block, you force the dispossession, and then you get out and run. That's where Indiana's advantage is right now. And that should have been a travel. That was a huge drag of the pivot foot. My God. Wow. How do you not call that? Wow. Okay. This happened at the end of the Oklahoma-Florida Gulf Coast game. I am always mystified at the huge calls that just get missed sometimes in these games. Okay, Garzone's got to pass it out. There we go. Oh, there we go. Well, Garzone finally hits a shot from the field. 1 for 8. She was 0 for 7 going into that. All right, Indiana being a lot more active defensively. Looks like something woke up in them a little bit with that long break for the faux elbow. Oh, that's a terrible call. My God, seriously? Everything that's going on in this game, and I mean, you tell me where the foul is here. Where's the foul? Where is the foul? Where is the foul there? Unbelievable. I mean, this is an NCAA tournament game, and you're calling that garbage. That's incredible. Well, anyway, free throw line for Oklahoma, where they have not been quite as much, but they've been pretty effective. 5 or 6 going into this set of free throws. As we note here on the podcast, ball lies all the time. Don't ever let anybody tell you that the ball does not lie, because it absolutely does. Oh, pick and roll here. Scalia doing some manufacturing of her own. You like having Scalia going to the free throw line, certainly. Let's hope that she has better luck than her teammates. Yeah, that was definitely a foul. I always love the move for basketball players, like, let me grab your arm and then immediately stick my own arms up. But good play by Sarah Scalia there. She knocks down that first free throw. Hey, got them both. Oh, nice job pulling that rebound out. Oh, but then a jump ball going to be called. Fortunately, that's going to be Indiana basketball. But man, I think both teams had a reason to feel aggrieved on that. I think there should have been a foul. Yeah, how is that not a foul? And how is that a jump ball? That's this is where it really does feel like the sometimes the referees just kind of they lose the plot, as we would say. Parrish, little 2-man action here. That was an unfortunate trip for an empty possession. It was a wrong time for that. Bad shot. And they're going to call an offensive foul. Well, I mean, Indiana's got to feel incredibly fortunate that they are up 1 with 4:15 to go the way that they've played so far in this game. They have got to score on this possession. And they didn't. Crowd really trying to will them into something. That was not a bad shot by Yarden. It was just off. Oh. What was the call? Did they call that? Okay. I guess they called a jump ball here on. That's just a block and a travel. That's not a jump ball. That's one of the. There's oftentimes these are the kinds of plays where the official doesn't want to call what it's obviously there, so they call something else. Ow. Yeah, that was what I was worried about. Well, Indiana's not getting any favors from the officials down the stretch here, as they really look afraid to call anything noteworthy on either team. So this is where the shot making has to happen. That was a really nice play. That was a nice job by Mackenzie Holmes to get herself into position for that one. Oh, how is that not a foul? I mean, Holmes just got clobbered to the deck, and they didn't call a thing. Wow. I mean, that is that is like the very definition of a. I mean, that's not having a moving screen. I mean, that's just a charge. Terry Moore, just like I don't think I want to hear this explanation, sir. Those of you who were around last year, you remember this is exactly the officiating was where it kind of went sideways down the stretch. But this is where you can't count on it if you're Indiana. You've absolutely got to figure out a way to overcome by hitting shots. Like that's the only way Indiana wins this game. They're not going to get favorable calls. Yeah, and that's again, Holmes is just getting pushed all over the court. We're still not even in the bonus right now for either team. Oklahoma doing their Houston impression here. All right, shot by Parrish. That's it. That's a rough one. And wide open. Good job getting out there though by Oklahoma defensively. That's going to be a foul. Yeah, this is where again, you got to hit shots. Can't hit the shots. The other team's going to hit the shots and then you're really in trouble. And now Indiana's kind of left themselves in a position where they can't have any empty possessions because not only do they have to make up this possession, but they're going to have another one after a defensive stop where they can put themselves in a position to get back into the lead or tied. So they got to go. They got to go quick. I don't like the pace that Indiana's deciding to play with here. And Oklahoma is just really quick defensively. They don't seem to be able to handle Mackenzie Holmes, but they're handling everybody else pretty well. We'll see what Oklahoma decides here. It was good defense by Holmes. There you go. That was really nicely done. Got her off of her first preference in terms of her handedness, and then I think she was just a little too turned around, didn't get good contact or didn't get good lift under that shot. There we go. Another good manufactured trip to the free throw line. Well, nervy times here at Assembly Hall. As Tyler noted, Oklahoma's just more physical and the rest are letting them play. Which, look, I mean, we talk about this a lot in football. We talk about it in basketball, too. If you're the aggressor, I mean, if you have a refereeing crew like this, who is clearly afraid to call things, then you have an advantage because you're going to get away with things because they're not going to call fouls on every play. Off the front of the rim and in. Well, Indiana did what it needed to do. Now they need to get one more stop. Oh. And dribble. Okay, that was a fortunate break. Now, please, Indiana, take advantage of this. I don't know how Scalia didn't get called for that foul. I think if whatever complaints you've had as an Indiana fan about how the calls have gone, you got away with one there where they didn't call Scalia on that collision with the ball handler. Nice. Right in. That is really, really well done. Good defense by Garzone there. Wow. Did Van just not catch that ball or what happened? It's almost like she didn't even notice it coming. Now it just went right through her hands. I think she was so like concerned with Holmes bodying her from behind, but it's like if you've bodied Holmes from behind all game, you can't really complain about that too much. What are they looking at? Yeah, we know. It was what was originally called. Thank you for wasting our time with that. That's great. Well, Indiana with you got to kind of like this position that they're in as much as they've got the ball up one or up two under a minute. Sydney. I love that. Cheeky, like, yeah, let me just fake like I'm shooting the three here. All right. You got to get something. Oh, that's huge. Oh, what a possession by Indiana. That is tremendous. All right, don't give up an easy two. Hey, there it is. What is Oklahoma doing? Wow. Man. Or as Brian says in the chat, bam. That's what you like. Man, back from the dead. Indiana on an 8-0 run here. It was 64-60. It's now 68-64. There you go, Quack. Fourth quarter Yarden. Well, hit these two free throws. Let's not leave anything to chance. There we go. Thank you, Sarah Scalia, for not leaving anything to chance. Definitely didn't leave anything to chance. All right. Now getting excited. All right. So this is where good defense comes in handy. Dale says, I like it when you're happy. I like it when I'm happy too. I'm a big fan of Happy Galen. I've learned over time. Happy Galen is a positive one. Just a reminder, folks, after this game, turn me off and go over to the other part of the Back Home Network YouTube channel. We've got the Doing the Work podcast, Kathy Amos, Jeff Marlowe. Andy Bottom is going to be joining them for that game. And obviously, I have a feeling they're going to be talking a lot about Mackenzie Holmes, who, after a bit of a slow start, just exploded in the second half. 29.6 rebounds, really just absolutely put this team on her back and carried her. So make sure to head over there and watch the post game. We got 25 seconds left. We're going to bring it home here and then turn it off. Yeah, ESPN tried to make that 10-year-old girl a celebrity. Look what they've done. I know. Bad production decisions, right? No, I'm sorry. Jeff is still in Spain. I'm sorry, Kathy. I thought Jeff was back. I assumed he would have flown back for the game or gotten like a secure like Skype connection from the Iberian Peninsula, but apparently not. So trouble getting the ball in. They're gonna let Van. Oh, they're gonna call a foul on. Actually, I don't mind that foul by Sydney. I mean, she's gonna. It probably wasn't a foul, but I don't even mind it if that was an actual correct call, because I'd rather not give her just an easy two. Yeah, that didn't look like a foul to me, but let's look at this other replay angle. Yeah, geez, that's not a foul. Whatever. This isn't even a women's basketball thing. That looks like the foul at the end of the Samford Kansas game. If you watch that in the men's tournament. Little extra time going off the clock there. Karen asking what they were reviewing. They were reviewing the clock kept running after the foul was whistled. So that's what they were doing. They were trying to put some time back on the clock. So not entirely over, but you'd hope Indiana with their free throw shooters would be in a position where they could salt this one away without too much of a trouble. But you're going to get a press here from Oklahoma, although obviously Indiana's going to go ahead and advance the balls. Indiana's got multiple timeouts left. So that's one of the big differences here with the men's game versus the women's game is you get to advance the ball on the timeout. I'm not a big fan of it, but it does make for a much different strategic circumstance in terms of trying to get the ball inbounds. So Indiana up 4, and obviously, your option A, you want to get the ball into Sarah Scalia. So you can run her off a couple screens and get her into a position where she can easily catch the ball. That's the best option. But this last 22 seconds is probably going to go for a while here, as we'll see what Indiana's doing. You can see they've got Scalia all the way on the far end from where the inbound's coming in. You've got Parrish and McNeil set up, so they're going to dive out around, and sure enough, they got it right to Scalia. She'll go ahead and get fouled. A little bit of a delay here, and of course I don't know what the heck's going on. I don't know how they don't know. Is it they don't know what the timeout situation is? I'm not listening to the broadcast, obviously, because I'm talking to you folks and what little I can hear through my own microphone. But they let her get up to the line, and then they pulled it off, and now they're bringing a piece of pink paper over. This is wild. Like, what on earth is going on? There's some kind of like an official issue here. This is Tom Atkins noting here, this is icing. This isn't even icing. Like, I feel like icing is intentional. This is, I think this is accidentally bad, and it's like classically what I would expect in this situation. This is pretty bad. So now they're writing down, I think maybe they're trying to figure out who the foul was on, because Oklahoma's claiming, I'm entirely guessing based upon body language and lip reading, that I think a foul was called on an Oklahoma player, and they think that player has fouled out. And I'm shocked that the broadcasters don't know anything. But this is insane. I mean, this is so there's my old pal Jeff Sherman, who's doing stats. I don't think he's to blame. There is clearly some kind of miscommunication or discrepancy going on down there. This is nuts, though. I mean, you've got an Indiana player who's got to the free throw line, and nobody seems to be able to understand like when they're supposed to get there or what they're supposed to be doing. I guess on the positive side, this might help Indiana defensively a little bit. Refs are not supposed to be able to ice the shooter, says Don. I agree with that. These unnecessary ref reviews are the worst part of basketball. I really don't understand what could possibly be taking this long. Other than a player fouled out that Oklahoma was thinking had more, like didn't have as many fouls as they actually had. That's like the only thing I can think of. the Indiana people that I recognize on press row look absolutely exasperated, and I don't blame them. Terry Moore is like, "Are you got to be kidding me? Can we just get things going here?" I mean, your guess is as good as mine as far as all this stuff is concerned. Yes, we are. They are absolutely, as Howie says, icing the podcaster. I am completely iced at this point. I am out of things to say. Kathy, thank you for chiming in. Iowa up 3 over West Virginia with a minute left in the first. That's been a close one so far. Dale asked, are they talking with the Oklahoma stat keepers? Well, there aren't any Oklahoma stat keepers. There's NC, and all these are NCAA people. This is part of the problem, is that you get a whole crew. I mean, there's some Indiana people down there that do this all the time, but you get, like, the officials are from the NCAA. Scotty is just like, the hell with it. I'm going to hit these free throws anyway. I don't think I've ever seen that in an NCAA tournament game before. And she knocked them both down. So much ado about nothing. Sarah Scalia unflappable as always. And timeout by Oklahoma so they can advance the ball. What a bizarre set of circumstances. So Indiana's still up 2 full possessions. Obviously, they will need to, Oklahoma would need to hit a 3, and then they would need to, from there, foul Indiana, have Indiana miss one of the free throws, and then, or at least or 2 of them, and then hit another 3. The Wrath Bro asked me any good dry rub tips. We should talk cooking while we've got these timeouts going on. So yes, the big thing is no sugar, except a very little bit if you're going to be cooking for a huge amount of time. You can put sugar on for like ribs, but you want to avoid it for things like brisket or pulled pork that are going to be out there for a while. And don't overdo the salt. And especially if you're going to put the rub on early, don't overdo the salt. Has a negative impact, I think, on the overall product. That was a little dangerous. I would have just let her shoot and hit it, but it ended up working out. Sydney Parrish getting knocked around down there and gets the rebound, so she'll go to the free throw line. Yeah, see, this is where Tyler noting the timeout advancement is wild. I mean, it's one of those things where it's wild to those of us who like men's college basketball. And yet, I mean, it happens in women's college basketball, happens in the WNBA, happens in the NBA. It is the norm, not the exception. Much like halves are the exception, not the norm. And now Sydney makes it a 3-possession game. That should do it. That should be all that we have to worry about with this game. I mean, I don't see Oklahoma, unless Indiana does some truly baffling stuff, coming back from an 8-point deficit with 14 seconds left. Another timeout going to be called here. What clutch free throws down the stretch here, though, for this Indiana team. I mean, and just in general, you were following along, obviously, if you've been watching this watch party for as long as we've been on. Indiana was shooting around 29-30% for most of the game, and they are at 38.5% now, 25 for 65. Their free throw shooting had dropped to, I think at one point they were at 63 or 64%. They're now at 77%. I think, I believe at one point they were like 11 for 17, and they've hit 10 in a row from the free throw line. They're 21 of 27. And they've only committed 4 turnovers this entire game, Indiana has. Oklahoma's committed 11. So as bad as Indiana played for like the first 3 quarters, and they're going to just let her score. And then now IU's going to call a timeout and advance the ball. This is why I hate the advancing the ball rule, by the way. It incentivizes, all of these timeouts at the end of the game. And it really stretches play out, I think, beyond what it needs to. Kathy noting, if they hang on here, they're going to have to be infinitely better. I agree. But here's the thing. I think you got to understand. There's clearly a lot of an issue. This team has had a mental block, I think, as much as they got asked about that Miami game and as much as that stuck in their head. They clearly were tight in this game. And I don't think they're going to be that tight against South Carolina. That doesn't mean they're going to beat South Carolina, because South Carolina is going to defend. They're going to watch what Oklahoma did in this game and be like, oh, yeah, if we just deny Indiana the ball at the perimeter, they're going to really struggle to make anything happen. And much like Oklahoma, South Carolina absolutely has the horses where they can defend Mackenzie Holmes one-on-one. But I also think Indiana is going to play a lot looser when they're out of their own building, and they're not going to have anything to lose. Everybody's going to expect South Carolina probably be a double-digit favorite in that game. And so, I think Indiana is going to naturally play a bit better now that they've gotten this albatross off of their back, so to speak, of having lost in the second round last year. Nice inbounds pass there to Scalia. She's going to go back to the free throw line. We had a question earlier, Carbonite 1983 asking, did the B-Town Goldens hold up okay with this nerve-wracking game? Apparently they didn't. Apparently Stewart, come here, buddy. Come here. Let's, everybody wants to see you. Come on up. Come on, Stu. Come here, buddy. There's Stewart. He's doing fine now. Oh, I know. Dad's so scary when he's watching basketball games. Yes, I know. It's fine. Yes. No, it's a good boy. Anyway, it looks like we're good to go here, as Stewart was not handling the game well, but he's handled himself well, I guess, here at the end. Indiana will win the game. There we go. Final score, 75-68. Well, what a contest. And Indiana back to the Sweet 16, third time in the last 4 years, or the last 4 tournaments, and a game that they absolutely had to gut out despite one of their worst shooting performances, particularly from three. They were 3 for 16 from three, but they do what they need to do at the line. They make 11 out of their last 12, and they find a way to win. Congrats to the ladies. Congrats to Terry Morin. And thank you to Kathy and all you folks for riding along. Had a lot of fun. Go watch the Doing the Work podcast. They're going to get fired up right now. We're going to end this one. For all the folks that were here, I'm Galen Claudio. This is CrimsonCast. We'll catch you folks on the flip side. Bring back the Bison. Go Hoosiers. So long, everybody.